Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chunushumme, washmale. Ohio gozaimasu, guten Morgen, hola, boyo, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba. Buna, mucho, gracias, swabia, bhalli kare aya. Hosh gade nanayo sayo, khuya mora, chivato, chihal jod, kali mera, khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned in to PTV World and watching World this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very lucky that I've been joined by my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and once again, it's a very fine sunny morning over here in Islamabad. We hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well, that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajar, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for introducing me. And weather is very perplexing here in the capital of Islamabad, because one day it's raining and the other day it's very perplexingly and scorchingly hot. But since it happens to be 11th of September and today the entire nation is observing the 76th death anniversary of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, which is being observed with the due solemnity and reverence across the country. He was born on 25th of December 1876. He served as the leader of All India Muslim League from 1930 until Pakistan's creation on August 14, 1947. He then served as Pakistan's first Governor General until his death, and no one can deny the contributions of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah in the upbringing of this nation. And one thing which stands very strikingly interesting to me is the fact that he fought the battle for the Pakistan, for the creation of the Pakistan, rather I would like to say, only with the political means and with the constitutional means. He was never once in his lifetime jailed, and this shows his commitment to the law. And this is something that we need to take the inspiration from.
So we certainly remember the founder of the Pakistan or motherland, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, there's one thing that I always remember, in one of his, I think, seminars that he spoke about, that how children really need to go to school first, and only then they can actually come for whatever political rallies were taking place back then. Right. But in addition to this, I think that this is a message that we really need to keep close to ourselves. Now imagine that with the evolving educational models, we certainly need to make sure that we emphasize on digital learning, on digital literacy, on artificial intelligence and augmented reality. And such is the case that we are discussing today. We have some amazing guests over here, but before we kind of delve into that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a small report to share with you on digital literacy. Please go ahead, take a good look, and once you guys will come back, we will figure out ways of how to do that, not just online, but rather with mentors. Let's do it.
An event on future of digital learning was organized at Magala Hotel in Islamabad by New Horizons. The discussions were remarkable, filled with insights on the evolving landscape of digital education. Mr. Jason, National Curriculum Director from the US, gave an enlightening presentation on global educational technology trends. Ms. Amara Naseem, Deputy Secretary of Education, highlighted the vital role of collaboration between policymakers and educators. Mr. Kashif Salim, Director of Digital Learning at Aga Khan Education Services, Pakistan, was acknowledged for his contributions for advancing digital learning initiatives. Ms. Miran Malik from a private television channel helped spread the seminar's message to a wider audience. And Kiran Zahir from New Horizons was appreciated for her dedication in organizing the event. Deepest appreciation was given to Mr. Amin, Managing Director of New Horizons, whose vision was instrumental in making the seminar a success.
Digital literacy is very much important for us, because this is the bane and the very fame, in fact, event where we have to think about that how we can attract the new generation, that how they have to cope here with the new challenges in learning.
As a trainer for EdTech and teachers, I'm extremely happy and glad to see that New Horizon has set up this event today. They're exhibiting all kinds of apps and tools that teachers can resource in their classrooms to make learning engaging and fun.
This is a wonderful opportunity where private and government sectors are combining together and sharing their best practices also. They're also giving a lot of ideas of adoption of technology, because the technology is the only way through which we can address so many issues like learning gap issues, like out of school children issues, and also lower quality teacher issues we can resolve with this.
We are going to introduce a new learning platform which is called Learning A to Z, which is for grade pre-K to 12. It is used to enhance the learning platform, learning technologies, new digital technologies, for digital classrooms. It explores the e-learning systems.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, so this was a wonderful report by the Deputy Controller himself, Mr. Jamshed Sultan. Wonderful initiative of his to kind of go reach out to all of these amazing people, bring them over here so that we can have a conclusive conversation about digital learning. Not just that, it's a 3-day seminar which is taking place in Magla Hotel, Islamabad. Today, I guess it's going to be the second day and tomorrow the third, the final day as well. But without any further ado, Haja, why don't you take the lead and introduce a worthy guest over here inside studios with us?
Of course. So without further monopolizing our conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by someone from the United States of America. He is the National Curriculum Director. He's going to shed the light on the future of the digital literacy. He happens to be Mr. Jason Generally. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for coming to our show and welcome to PTV World.
It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be here today. Thank
Absolutely.
Thank you
The
so
pleasure
much.
is ours. And joining Mr. Jason, we are very glad that we have been joined by someone who happens to be the MD of the New Horizons. He is Mr. Muhammad Amin. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalam. Thank you for inviting me.
Right. And let's kickstart a conversation. And when we talk about the future of the digital literacy, obviously Mr. Jason mentioned a very important aspect, and we would further like to unroll a conversation and dissect this concept in very detail, which is the personalization of the education that happens at the intersection of the digital technology. And that can make the education very inclusive, and that was the aspect which was never witnessed before in the history. So how can we make sure that there is an inclusive education going on, especially in the aftermath of the children who are neurodivergent, who have these learning disabilities or different learning conditions called autism, ADHD? How can we make sure that they are also included and mainstream in the education system? So Mr. Jason, please highlight your input on that, and what are some of the new research trends that you would like to dissect on our show?
No, absolutely. And there are so many trends in education now
Yes.
when it comes to the digital learning aspects. When it comes to multi-sensory approaches, one thing that technology allows us to do is to reach students with that multi-sensory approach, but really reach students anytime, anywhere. There's an equity that comes into play when it comes to technology.
True.
And technology, really, it's meant to make teachers' lives more effective and efficient, and then make that motivation and engagement for students even greater.
Right.
And so when it comes to really applying the technology to the learning, we can reach so many students with the use of technology.
So when we say that, that the use of technology will make their lives more efficient and effective, does that mean that we're saying that it's going to make their lives easier? With a lot of result.
For sure, that is all relevant, right? It's learning is really never easy, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's a failure process,
Yeah.
and that's part of
course.
learning.
Wow.
And so to say that it makes it easy, I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that effective and efficient are better terms than easy.
To kind of put it, yeah.
For teachers and for
So I
students.
think we
And
really
I
need to
think-
understand the, very sorry Haja, but we really need to understand the landscape of, evolving technologies. I think for everybody who's out there, can you please shed some light on that, how probably United States of America is working on their educational model, because you have designed a few syllabi as well yourselves. How do you think it's evolving? Where do you think we really need to forecast and see that, okay, this is coming our way?
For sure. Well, there are definite trends in digital literacy right now, and you mentioned those. And so, AI is really big, and that really helps with the learning analytics so that we can cater the instruction and the teaching and the resources to a wide range of students, as
Yep.
you had mentioned. When it comes to gamification and interactions, that's really important for our students. We want learning to be fun.
Yeah.
Now, to say that it's easy, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right.
Learning is never easy for any of us, right?
Right.
But the interactions and the
Right.
gamification really speaks to our students, to our younger children
Yep.
that are in school, and it makes it fun for them. When it comes to personalized learning, that is another trend. And as you mentioned, we have to cater our instruction and teaching to a wide range of students, right?
Yep.
Right.
And so that is really critical. Technology is a tool to help us do that. When it comes to a mobile and micro learning approach, technology allows us to do that. Mobile means anytime, anywhere.
Yep.
And this is a great goal for, I think, all of our
And
children, especially, right?
Right, and I think post-COVID situation has made it even more dire that we delve into this particular field, which Mr. Jason has been mentioning. So now moving forward a conversation to Amin Saab. So Amin Saab, we've seen that before a child goes to any school, there's some sort of, informal education going on, maybe at the homes, because it is the first nursery where you learn anything, right? And when we talk about the childhood education and making it more interesting for the children, we cannot ignore the fact that we need better parental engagement in that entire process, right? So how do you think that we can engage better parental engagement and also make the future of the digital learning more easier when we talk about the situation in the context of Pakistan, because we see that the diffusion of technology is not as great as, you know, in the American society is.
I think, Haja, you have a very interesting question. Home is the most important school and parents are the most influential teacher. This is the home environment that makes the difference, in fact, in the life of a child. Because children, they learn. Basically, children, you know, I mean, say, learning is something different, but as a children, you know, children mostly they imitate the parents. Whatever the parents are doing, okay, children will do the same thing.
True.
So, this is basically there are, you know, school, parents and the child. A child spends only maybe, you know, 4 to 5 hours in school, rest, you know, 18, 19 hours at home.
Right.
Now, what parents do during those critical hours, that is more important.
Of course, yes.
Jason knows, you know, there was a latest survey in United States. They said that children spend about 13% of the total timings at school and rest 87% at home.
Yes.
They sleep, they play, you know, still there. So, and at school a child can get attention by a teacher in a class of 30 students.
Yeah.
In our public schooling system, you know, class is maybe, you know, the criteria is whether there is a, you know, place to put a chair for the child, you know, it could be 60, 65, I don't know how many.
Yeah.
But the private schooling, you know, 30 students, a child gets individual attention by a teacher just for a minute, 1 or 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, what teacher can do, you know, I mean, say during those 1.5 minutes,
Right.
and if as a parent, you know, we spend 10 minutes with our children
Right.
constructively every day, that makes a lot of difference.
That
Right.
does.
You see, when we put the children in school, in play group,
Right.
they all are equal. They can't speak, they can't talk, they can't write. But the minute, you know, they are in KG, class 1, 2,
Right.
then they have position, you know, he got the first position, second position, third position.
Yep.
Now, if you look at the classroom, it's the same teacher who is teaching in the classroom, but where is the difference? The difference is home environment.
Right. Right.
Children, they are naturally curious, they have a lot of questions to ask. As a parent, we don't have the answer.
Of course.
Okay? When my children, you know, they are all grown up, you know, married, settled, they used to ask me questions. Believe me, I never answered their questions. I told them, you know, I don't know the answer, but I know the place where the library was to get the answer. You see?
Right.
One more important thing, if we tell something to a child, child will forget.
Right. Right.
If we teach something to a child, child will remember.
And this brings.
But if we involve the child,
Right,
the child is going to learn.
True.
Right.
So the whole thing, you know, what we are doing these, you know, I always, you know, I'm at the hunt of, you know, finding out, you know, searching for the better,
Right.
you know, best educational products, you know, that I can bring to Pakistan. I have done in the past, we started in 98.
Right.
Okay, we brought the best of educational products, you know, the schools, libraries, parents, they are using our products.
True.
Now, since, you know, we want to have the transition from print to digital,
Yes.
so that's why we call Jason, you know, over here, because Learning A to Z, I found, you know, they have the best digital products.
Yep.
Right.
So at home, parents can do wonders with their children.
Right.
Instead of school, you know, I mean, don't depend everything on school. You know, it's not that we have put the children in school,
Right.
okay, and school will do all the job. No, it's not the school job.
Right.
It's parents' job. You know, it's equally important that parents spend at least 10 minutes constructively with their children.
And
Yeah.
no one can deny the power of the maxim children see and children do, right?
True.
Because they learn more by seeing things rather than
Sure.
they are being told or being lectured
Yeah,
on,
entertainment,
right?
you know, I mean, so
Yes.
children will learn only once they enjoy. If they are enjoying something,
Right,
you know, you are enjoying, you are sure, that's why you are so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
The minute, you know, you stop enjoying, you won't be, you know, that active.
So
So
rather than-
same thing goes for the children. When we send the children to school, if they are going to enjoy, next morning they are anxious to go to school. Probably they would be dreading the time to go to school.
And that's how it's very important that we need to constantly get engaged with our children, right? So how was your day? How did it happen? Now moving the conversation on, Mr. Jason. So there's a very interesting conversation going on, and I was researching it up in the UNICEF website, and I came across a very interesting concept in which talks about the alternative delivery forms. And when we talk about alternative delivery forms, they were also talking about strengthening the non-formal education, right? So since you have been designing a lot of syllabi and the concept of the catch-up classes, right? So there's no recognition or accreditation given to non-formal delivery methods, right? And I think they're as much important as the schools are. How can we mainstream that concept, give them recognition, validation, accreditation that they deserve?
Because
right?
we might not have recognized it by far.
Of course, of course.
Absolutely. When you have the right technologies in place and the right people that you're working with, like Mr. Amin, and you can see why we're so excited to be working with him. There are so many avenues that you can take to really help that non-formal education of students. And it all starts with something that he mentioned, and it starts with students having a passion for something, and then being able to allow those students, or those children, we should say, to follow that passion. During our seminar yesterday, during our webinar, it was wonderful, our speakers. But one of the speakers, he led with the fact that learning should be fun.
Yes.
And it's been lost because of the pressures on teachers to reach certain criteria and proficiencies with students. Students feel that pressure. Parents feel that pressure at home. They want their students to succeed.
Of course.
But when you can make the learning fun, then you give avenues for students to want to learn at home when they are away from the school. This is really critical. Learning should be something that is fun and something that children want to attain, not something that they have to because they're being forced to do it. And that's a catchy, that's a fine line.
It is. And thank you so much for saying that, because I still remember that, my one of my daughters, alhamdulillah, I always keep on giving examples from their life as well, because I do believe that, that they're marvelous creatures. It's because of the fact they keep on teaching you as well. Now imagine her first language is not Urdu. This is not that I'm saying that, that there's a lot of pride that I need to take out of it, but that's what technology does to you. Now imagine that with whatever she was watching on her iPad, she picked up on her first language as English. And imagine that from there onwards for her to learn was easier than other siblings, because everything that we read and write and whatever we memorize is in English anyways. But coming back to the point where you said that there needs to be personalized learning. Now imagine that, that we all as students start from the same line and we want to finish at the same line as well. But with personalized learning, do you think that there will be differences amongst people who share knowledge?
Of course, there will always be differences.
Yeah,
there's never one
that's
size fits all, right? And when you said that with personalized learning, one size doesn't fit all. And every child will have a different pathway that they will take to their success. And even though we want to get to the same finish line, they will get there in different ways. Students, children learn differently. You and I, we learn differently. Some of us are visual learners. Some of us are auditory learners. Some of us are tactile. We need to play and work with things to learn. The finish line is the same, but how we get there is always different. And that's where technology really is a tool to really help us with that personalized learning pathway.
And is it important for us to kind of recognize that, okay, it does not really matter whether how I'm going to reach the finish line, but whatever the way it may be?
That's precisely it. And that's why teachers have the most difficult job, I believe, on the planet. Because they are in charge of trying to figure out how students work, what pathway is going to work best for them, and then help them follow that pathway. But when we talk about a classroom with 30 different students, that's a whole lot of different pathways.
I mean, but that's where it gets different.
That's right.
That's where it gets difficult.
I think it's very important that we also need to dissect the concept of teacher-centric pedagogy, right? Shahzad and I have been brought up in the environment or in the schooling environment where teacher was considered to be a very sole, central, authoritative figure, right?
And one size fits all.
You cannot question her, right? Because that was deemed as disrespect. And I think in the pursuit of that, that somehow damages our critical thinking skills, right? But when we talk about the digital literacy, we cannot deny the fact that we need to move away from this teacher-centric pedagogical models, right? And we need to give voices to the children out there. Like you mentioned that children ask questions that we even do not have answers to it, right? But we often consider that, that these are kids, they are not that mature. How can we give more voices to the students out there so that they can become part of the system, they can give their feedbacks out there and make this learning system more fun and improved and better in Pakistan's context?
I think that most of this problem exists in public schooling.
Yes, and I think in private too, right?
Private schools, some of the private schools, but I wouldn't name those schools. That's not fair. But some of the schools, they are doing really a wonderful job.
Yes.
Because from rote memorization,
Oh yes.
we have to I mean say involve them. Only then they will learn. Okay, so with digital education, everything is open to them. Children, they can ask questions, and I'm sure that here teacher can't escape from those questions.
Of course.
Okay, in the classroom, I mean say in a class of 30-40 students, whoever they are, in public schooling, if a student asks a question, normally teachers discourage. I have been from the same system from public schooling. Okay, and
we
that
understand
was
that.
was long
yes.
ago.
Oh, yes.
And that time I mean that if you do something wrong, teacher used to hit you also.
Yeah, that's
okay. Now that thing is no more.
We belong to the same era.
Yeah,
We understand the pain. Yeah.
so that is there. But in digital learning, everyone is involved.
Yeah.
So once they involve and they have fun, they will definitely learn.
True.
Right.
Without that, without enjoying the things, nobody is going to learn. Even if I don't enjoy my profession, I'm not going to be successful.
But
in
I
do
think
that.
this-
So the important thing, that whatever they do it with love and passion.
Right.
They'll be successful.
And I think this
And that's what we want to do, that children should become, good readers.
True.
The actual problem is with our, society, that we don't want our children to read.
Yeah.
Or we don't inculcate reading habit in them right from the beginning. This is what we do at New Horizons. We are trying to pass on this message to the parents, to the teachers, that children should read. There is no difference between a child who does not read and a child who cannot read. Both are equally literate.
Yeah.
Right.
So they need to read. Jason knows, you have been traveling, you have seen that, like you said, your daughter, 5-year-old daughter,
Yep.
okay, she is reading.
Yep.
So reading is feeding to brain. So our major focus should be on reading.
Right.
That's what we are not doing. Okay, every teacher, whoever is listening to me, every parent, they should focus on reading.
And I always was, sort of a student where I always loved reading myself as well. And I have a very amazing example to share. Now, imagine that the kind of schooling system that I was attending, it was a lot about rote memorization.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really a good student, I flunked a few times as well. It was quite challenging for me, so towards the end of the year, my mother and my father would always sit me down, make sure that I've memorized everything. Now, imagine that a student who was flunking in that school model, all of a sudden he's in university, first semester, I got a scholarship for myself. Wow. Now, imagine the only difference was that my teacher said that whatever I'm teaching you guys, if you can reproduce it in whatever words you can and defend it, I will give you full marks. And it worked for me. I got 3 scholarships in my bachelor's degree and so on in my master's. So that's the change that we probably require.
And I think it's very important that we include teachers in training them and better able to understand the critical thinking skills of the child, right? What do you have to say, Jason?
I was just smiling the whole time you were talking.
Right.
One of the things that we mentioned yesterday in our webinar was regurgitation.
Oh, yes.
And so what I always have called this is we want students to memorize. That's the thought, right? That is not. And what I call that is regurgitation. We cram for something, we memorize it for a certain period of time so that we can do well on a test, and we regurgitate it back on a piece of paper.
Yep.
Right.
That isn't learning, that's memorization, and they're completely different things.
Yes, yes.
And so what you just described was you finally got to your university, teachers allowed you to follow a passion, and they allowed you to follow that in your way.
Yep.
And it's not that you weren't capable, it's that you weren't provided the right opportunities to learn.
True.
You were just regurgitating, and that's just not education.
Exactly.
I'm so glad that you said that.
And thank you so much for
Thank you so
seconding
much.
it as well. But thank you
Thank
so
you so
much,
much.
sir, for being with us. Thank you so much, Lisa,
Thank
for
you
being
so
with
much.
us. It was wonderful to have you both to talk about, learning technologies, digital learning, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. This is the way forward. I think schools really need to kind of work on that. Yesterday we had a school principal with us who actually told us that, that they have actually initiated a course for, children who are in first grade, second grade, and that too they're learning about robotics. I think that's the kind of learning that we want. We certainly need to move on from ABC. Every child who's coming to school, probably at the age of 5 knows ABC already, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, 10. I think we need to think outside the box over here as well. We need to change the way that we learn. And, I think Mr. Jason has said it, he hit the nail on the head by saying that it does not matter the way that you've taken. The finish line is out there for everybody. Everybody can have their own personalized learning methodologies. And, and the end result would be people like me and Haja, Mr. Jason, and Mr. Amin over here. But congratulations for the seminar as well. Thank you so much, Amin Bhai, for bringing Jason over here as well. It's a 3-day seminar, as you all know. I hope that people can participate.
I would like to, take the opportunity from this platform to invite the parents, because tomorrow we are going to conduct the seminar for parents only.
Wonderful.
Right.
So Margla Hotel, anybody is, welcome to join us at
Free
Margla
lunch?
Hotel.
Free lunch?
Yeah, free.
That's the best of the incentives. So we are going on a short
I would
break.
also request you,
So we
Shahzad,
will,
you
inshallah.
should come, as a parent.
And we will.
And Haja, you should come.
Thank you so
tomorrow
much.
you are invited for that.
Thank you
Inshallah,
so
sir.
much. Inshallah, we will try to attend. And with that, we're going on a short break. After we come back, there's an interesting discussion lined up that is also hinged around the concept of education. Don't go anywhere. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Obviously, you do know for a fact that, we were talking about digital learning and the techniques that we really need to make sure that we instill or integrate within our educational models. But having said so, where I spoke about my own university experiences, now moving on towards higher education, what we really need to talk about is the linkages in between the primary education, the secondary education, and how the children, or whatever we require, what disciplines do we require for the children to attend in order to make sure that we fill the gap within the academia or the, when we talk about the job market as well, number one. Number two, that the faculty is being hired on merit. Number three, that we constantly are making sure that we're going to integrate newer disciplines into whatever we are teaching already in the universities. And we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who started his career from JICI University in the Faculty of Computer Sciences and ended up being the Dean of Physics Department as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by Professor Dr. Mr. Sajid Kamal, who happens to be the Rector of ComScience University, Islamabad. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Well, Islam, thank you very much
It's an
for inviting me.
It's an absolute pleasure, Dr. Saab, for having you here. So now let's expound over the fact that, you have been involved in a lot of statutory bodies with the universities and in development of the curriculums, right? What are some of the missing gaps as someone who is an expert in the area you feel out there which needs to be addressed out there? Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank PTU World for inviting me here and giving me a chance to elaborate my ideas and my opinion. Well, as far as the question is concerned, yes, obviously, we felt it's almost 2 years or something like that when I engaged industrialists. For example, in Islamabad, we have so many software houses. So I engaged the owners of these software houses and tried to find out what is the problem with our youth, which is coming out of the university, having the curriculum, having the degrees of AI, cyber security, etc., data sciences. And they told me that the only thing which they felt was there is a skill gap. What we are giving through curriculum is not sufficient to cope up the industry requirement.
That's true.
So that was the question we asked with ourselves, what we can do, could do. And therefore, we decided to train the trainers. So it means, first of all, what we did is we hired the experts from the industry, and in our university, we exercised it. And finally, we managed to, first batch of our trainer from computer science department, who are basically the faculty members and instructors there, they were trained by the industry people. And then we were able to engage the government as well. You remember there was an initiative taken by the Federal Education Ministry that they engaged 4 universities in which ComStat was also included. And the objective was to train the people through engaging the colleges.
Dr. Saab, I'm sorry for interjecting here, but my question revolves around the concepts. Thank you so much for highlighting that there is a gap between the academia and market nexus, right? So in order to fulfill that, a lot of universities want to hire people from the market so that they can teach with their own experience, right? And extemporate over what are the missing gaps there. But the thing is, the problem arises is that there are certain HEC certified or I don't know, maybe from the university designated outlines, course outlines, right? And there are universities which do not allow you to move away from the outlines, and a lot of outlines are very, I would say, they're redundant because they were made 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
For example, we need to have these many credit hours,
yes,
to get a degree.
No, I'm not talking about that. So they do not incorporate the concept of artificial intelligence, for example, ChatGPT, because these are the technologies which are coming now and they are rapidly evolving, right? So
yes,
they do not talk about those technologies. So how can we fill that gap?
The point is, apart from the fact that curriculum is there, we have to go through a certain number of credits, but there is an opportunity for the student. That is the final year project.
Yep.
And that is based on 2 semesters project. So why not to engage the industry related projects there? Why not to incorporate the latest technology which is required to be taught? Although maybe we are not coping with the curriculum to tackle these issues, but the final year project is something where we can easily cope up with all the requirements.
Exactly. And sir, in addition to this, I think I have another very amazing or primary example that, that I was actually visiting England and I saw my doctor, and he happens to be one of the finest spine surgeons in the world, alhamdulillah. And imagine what he did. So he thought of an idea that, okay, that this is the kind of equipment that I can use for minimal invasive methodology, or the way that the operation was done, very successfully known as keyhole surgeries. He went to Oxford University research team and he said that, hey, you know what, I need this kind of robotics, can you help me figure it out? And then that's what Oxford University did. They built the entire robot which can actually now help them to do the surgeries. Now, how do you think that, whatever industry we have over here can come and sign their memorandums of understanding with universities that these are the projects that your students need to do and will help us evolve the industry itself?
Exactly. This is the right approach.
Yep.
And this is what we have to do. And we have already started in ComStat University, at least to my knowledge. And we have also engaged industrialists and trying to engage more industrialists on our statutory bodies. For example, Imtiaz Raskar, you know about the person,
Yep.
it's very well known. He is our statutory body. He is one of the leading member of the committee which is steering the matters of the ORIC. ORIC is basically the Office of Research, Innovation and Commercialization.
Wonderful.
So we engaged Imtiaz Raskar there to find out the ways how we can engage the industrialists to the academia. You rightly pointed out there is a missing link between industry and the academia, and this is something which we have to do a lot. And I guess my opinion is that we have to come forward. Instead of looking for the industry to come to our university, we have to come forward.
So that's exactly what my question is now. Now imagine, alhamdulillah, you happen to be the rector yourself. You have a very lucrative profile, a career that you've built, from computer sciences to physics and then, quantum physics, whatnot. Now, how many times have you seen that your university, whatever they earn, that's not the question, that they invest back into the students, not just the infrastructure itself, that, okay, yeah, these are the activities that we need to make sure that the students are indulged in. This is the robotic facility that we're going to provide them. These are the kind of laboratories that they need, in order to kind of match their pace with the evolving technologies.
Well, this is the question very near to my heart because last year we decided to build and restructure all the facilities available to the students. And we did a lot. This summer, my team was actively engaged, and each campus, we have 7 campuses, and each campus we have given the deadlines so that you can cope up with all the matters, all the problems which basically the students are facing for the long time. And we have to, so we made a tremendous effort although the finances are constrained to us as well as, but keeping in mind our finances, we have done a lot of things. And I do invite you, if you possible, you do visit our university.
We will, sir, we will, inshallah. We would love to do so.
You will see the change there.
Inshallah.
Right. And I think that change is the need of the hour. So now let's carry forward our conversation, because we have shed the light on the higher education, or I would say the graduate education. So now let's move forward towards the education, sir, because we were talking about two different streams of education that are lying inside a country, right? Or I would say three, because madrasa education is also an education, right? So we are talking about OA levels, we are talking about FSC, the metric, and then we are talking about madrasa education. And there has been a lot of conversation, and our state is actively engaged in making sure that there are uniform opportunities given to students who are coming from all three sort of education. And if my memory serves me right, because my father used to have this conversation with me, and he used to say some of the very bright, brilliant students, they used to go to public schools, right? This was their standard. But now, unfortunately, I don't know what went wrong, but the private schools have propped up, right? Because they are, I don't know, for the lack of better idea or word, they are giving more better education, right? Or people prefer going there, right? Yep. So how can we bring forward, and if Shahzad has been talking about England, right? So in England, people prefer sending their kids to the public education because they're more prestigious, right? How can we make sure that there's a one stream of opportunity, uniformity given to all of these students? So if anyone is graduating from the madrasa, why should he only become Qari Sahab, right? Why can't he become a doctor, an engineer, a biologist? Because if you see in the Islamic history, Jabir bin Hayyan was not just a chemist, right? He was a philosopher. Because at the same time, he used to extensively work on the ahadith, right? Because the philosophical basis was Quran, right? So why can't we incorporate that concept now?
Well, again, this is again very near to my heart, this question, because I studied a lot about these differences. And as you mentioned about your father, maybe your father is of my age, and I remember that time. We used to go to the public schools. There was no private school, no city school,
no concept of private schools.
No kind of these schools which we have now have. I remember in Islamabad, all of the people, whether they belongs to the staff, they belongs to the bureaucracy, they belong to the whatever the background is. They used to go to ICB, Islamabad College for Boys. There was only one school. And right now, if you just try to find out how many people from this ICB are leading the different ministries as secretaries, additional secretaries. So it means there was a very good system available there, but unfortunately, we lose that opportunity. We lost it, and how to come back? Now, the question is how to come back to that one. Well, I would like to give an example of the Finland. Finland is the best education system is in Finland, primary education and secondary education. And reason is not that they are spending a lot of money on their school system or not, because most of the countries in Europe and America, even United States, they are spending more money than Finland, but they are not coming near to Finland education system.
What is it that they're doing differently?
They focus only 2 points: teacher and student. Their main philosophy is behind you have to give the best teacher. And because if the best teacher is available, then they can deliver best. And it's a very competitive process in Finland to get a school teacher job, and very lucrative one.
Contrary to Pakistan, because right,
anyone can become I don't like to mention that, but you mentioned
but that's how it needs to be over here as well, sir. Now imagine that we, right at the start of the show, we did speak about, that how merit needs to be ensured with faculty hirings as well. Now imagine that if there's a teacher who's been teaching probably mechanics or engineering or whatsoever, there's been so much of evolution in technology. There are 3D printers out there. The entire concept of building a house has actually changed as well. So don't you think that teacher training is fine, but they really need to go through some vigorous trainings to learn about newer techniques, and how does a university invest in that? Now imagine, I've seen universities where a professor, when he came probably or joined the university in 1995, is still there teaching the same subject, with the same book. There's nothing new about it. And that's what exactly is wrong with our, secondary or primary education, because with public schools, they have never ever thought about bringing in new syllabi, new teachers, or probably new subjects. Now, this is the exact question I asked my wife the other day. And I was like, you should keep the same books, because that's how we studied. We used to, probably our elder siblings, when they used to graduate from a class, our mother and father would keep the books safe so that we can use them, right? Now, my wife told me, and that's why, that private schooling actually went up, is because of the fact that they are changing. They're changing like that. The books that my elder daughter has read or memorized or, have appeared in the examinations of are now different for the younger ones. So how do you think that we need to work on that?
Well, you rightly mentioned change is inevitable, correct? And just to give an example of Nokia, everybody knows about Nokia. Nokia was the pioneer.
True.
But what happened to Nokia?
Exactly.
Because they did not follow the change.
And their CEO said that as well.
Yes, yes. We didn't. He said, I did not do anything wrong. But somebody said, you did not do the right thing as well. So you are rightly mentioned, and at least in ComStats, what we follow is we regularly revise the curriculum. We regularly try to find out what are the gaps available in the curriculum. So there is a system available. Similarly, we try to engage the professor, the senior most professor, to the basic level, first year, first semester,
grassroots.
Even myself, I for a continuous many semester taught this mechanics course.
So you were a bright student, na? You were a faculty in GK University.
No, not at all. The only thing is, I changed my teaching style. What I did, I tried to give the models there. I tried to engage the student to build the models based on the mechanics principle. And these are very simple models. I made a restriction on each group that do not spend beyond 1500 rupees. And then try to develop this particular Newton's law or whatever law according to
so you made sure that everybody is going to learn the basics of it and they can apply it
This is the way of teaching, which I learned in United States as well.
Exactly. And one last thing now, sir, before we wrap it up, and that is that me and Haja, we've always kind of spoken about it. It's very close to us. Now imagine what happens in our household is, unfortunately, as Muslims, that we, kiss the Holy Book Quran, keep it up somewhere, do not read it. Now imagine that, Quran is not only about our religion, but it teaches us about humanity, it teaches about sciences, it teaches us about how the world works, how the globe works, and everything is included in it. Don't you think that in days to come, we really need to make sure that we take out that knowledge which Allah has actually given us and make it a part of our curriculum, not just to learn as our religion, but to rather learn as science as well, or as humanities as well.
And I think I would like to club my question with Shahzad because of the paucity of the time. So, sir, we've seen, do you think there is a need to, for the Islamic studies to revamp this concept? Because we often read Confucius, right? Because it is included in the humanities or ethical studies, right? Why can't we incorporate the same sort of thing when we talk about Nahjul Balagha, because they're wonderful sayings of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, right? So when we talk, but it is clubbed under theology, it is clubbed under the Islamic studies, right? Why can't we make it part of the humanities or ethical studies in that matter?
I think there is no harm in teaching this Islamiyat and studies course as separate.
Of course there is no.
But what I think, I would like to answer one of your previous questions. Maybe the answer of that one is also lies there.
Sure.
Right.
You talked about madrasas. The only thing, I talked to madrasa people, their Nazims, whatever you call them, and they are ready to accept the challenges of the new technologies. The only thing is they would like to be incorporated inside their system.
Right.
And some of the madrasas, even in where I lived, there are some madrasas, they are now science schools. Their students this time in matric, they got very good positions in the board. So the thing is that we have to give the freedom, we have to teach them how to, and we have to support them. How can the technology can go into the madrasa?
Wonderful.
Because the missing link will then answer your question as well.
Exactly, and that's exactly what it is. But thank you so much, sir, for beautifully wrapping it up as well, Professor Dr. Sajid Saab. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And I believe that such are the directors that we require for all our universities around there as well. But very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, as you do know that we wish birthday to all of our colleagues who are out there as well. So today happens to be one of our very dear friends, Chaudhry Numan's birthday. So we're going to wish him a very happy birthday, Choi Saab. You know, happy Hajj Day to you, happy birthday to you. May you have many more. So अब जितने भी लोग जो देख रहे हैं चोई साहब हमारे बहुत अच्छे दोस्त हैं, मेहमान हैं, हमारे बड़े अच्छे अजीज हैं, और इनको अगर आपने ढूंढना हो तो जीएम ऑफिस में मिलेंगे या यूनियन के दफ्तर में मिलेंगे या कैंप ऑफिस में मिलेंगे. Nothing other than that. He's a brilliant guy, great guy, always out there to help everybody. And Choi Saab, you know, stay blessed. You know, keep on making that positive impact in terms of the way that you've been leading the union as well. Look after yourself. And for everybody who's actually celebrating their birthday today, ladies and gentlemen, a very happy Hajj Day to you. Look after yourselves. Until next time, 1, 2, 3. It's in the morning. Bye.